Hi, friends. I'm Linda Whitaker. I write speculative and near future thrillers laced with science and technology. I also host this podcast from Fact to Fiction, where we unpack the truth behind my favorite specialty thrillers. Think Douglas Preston, Daniel Suarez, Dan Brown. While these works differ in subgenre, from legal to medical to techno thrillers, each immerses the reader in a new but realistic world. And the best of these blend fact with fiction so well, it can be hard to tell the difference. You don't know what is, what could be, and what's totally impossible. It would take an expert to know. So each time we meet, I pair up with an expert and we select a new specialty thriller. We not only talk about why we love the book, but we unpack the truth behind the fiction. So our book today is Wanderers by Chuck Wendig. It was nominated for Bram Stoker Award, and it has echoes of Stephen King's The Stand and Kevin Boaz's Immortality. Kevin was an author. We had him on maybe 6 months ago. But in this novel, The Wanderers, people across America suddenly fall into trances and begin sleepwalking across the country, unfazed by heat, cold, hunger, or pain. Could it be a parasitic fungus, a covert experiment gone awry, or something far more ominous? The book explores themes of science, faith, politics, and societal anxiety, a lot of the latter. It's been called science fiction, apocalyptic, and a dystopian thriller. Our perfect guest to talk about Wanderers is Dr. Michael San Francisco. Uh, Michael joined us. You might remember Michael. He came when we talked about de-extincting the woolly mammoth with Douglas Preston's extinction. Welcome, Michael. I'm so happy to have you back talking with us again.
Thank you, Linda. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, so y'all may remember Michael is a microbiologist by trade, and he was an emeritus professor and dean from Texas Tech University. He has over 50 refereed publications in the area of molecular mechanisms of microbial drug resistance, atmospheric microbiology, and molecular and biochemical basis of symbiotic and pathogenetic interactions of microorganisms with their plant, wildlife, and human hosts. It's a mouthful. It's a mouthful. Let's just say it's short. Michael's going to help us explore the science behind the story, including parasitic fungi, because parasitic fungi are his jam. To the cut to
Edible.
the chase. So thank you again, Michael, for joining us to talk about Wanderers
Happy
Day.
to, Linda. Thank you.
Let's talk about what we liked or did not like about the book from the story perspective. How about you, Michael? What'd you think of the book? It's a big book. It's a long book.
It is a big book. And frankly, I found the book as I read through it, the story got more and more interesting and involved for sure. It's certainly a complex story. So you have to
Mhm.
keep track of the characters and the places and what's going down. And I think it could have been a little shorter. Nevertheless, it was a big read. And if anybody wants to pick it up, I'd say try not to read it at night just before you go to bed. Read it in the daytime.
Um, well, yeah, it's 800 pages, I think. So it's a big book. I like the characters personally, but I like the mystery. I liked the mystery of what was going on. And we'll talk about that when we talk about some of the facts behind the fiction. But I love the science, and I love when horror meets science. And
Mm.
this book reminded me, weirdly enough, not just of The Stand, but it also reminded me of Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan's The Strain, which is a vampire story. But when the vampires are created from, it says that vampires are created by a virus. And the CDC is there trying to figure out what's going on. And in that process, and the way that they're taking something that might be, pure horror, but they're putting the scientific background into it. And you've got characters trying to determine what's happening. So I love that. I got a little tired from I think the heaviness of it from a social Uh, reaction, it's heavy on
Mhm.
the social anxiety. That was,
Yes,
I think that might have made it more realistic. We can speak about that later, but it's a heavy book in places. So,
it is literally and
literally and
otherwise
physically and emotionally.
emotional, right?
All right. Well, let's talk about the facts behind the fiction. So in the book, an unknown thing causes people to sleepwalk. People start one by one, they join into this flock and they walk across the country. And they won't stop walking, they won't wake up, and they seem to feel no pain. They become impervious to needles and they blow up when you try to stop them. And the CDC scientists in the book are trying to find out what it is. So obviously, there's a good amount of fiction there. But what are the facts that might have inspired the fiction? So the first thing we want to talk about that they talked about that the CDC folks characters in the novel thought is that maybe microorganisms or viruses are to blame for this changes in behavior and physiology. So Michael, can you tell us a little bit about how this might happen? What's our relationship with microorganisms, bacteria, virus, and fungi?
So, from my limited knowledge, I think microbes sort of own who we are. For example, an average human being has 10 to the 13th cells that of
Thought.
which they are made. But in our bodies and on our bodies, in our digestive tract, our genitourinary tract, our respiratory tract, we have 10 to the 14th microorganisms. 10 times more microorganisms are in and on your body than who we are or what we carry.
We are 90% something else.
Correct.
Holy
Indeed.
cow.
Yes. And so we are effectively, we think, oh, we're independent. And I always told my students this. I said, if you're reading something or watching a horror movie in the middle of the night and you're going, oh, I'm all alone. I wish someone was here. Don't worry. You have your microbes.
You are not alone. You are
That's,
micro.
yes.
I love it. Okay,
And the
cool.
microbes could be the protozoans, the fungi, the bacteria, and all associated viruses. So that's a lot.
Can these microorganisms influence our behavior?
There are lots of examples of behavioral contributions, so to speak, of microbes in our bodies. And one classic one is neuromodulation of our behavior through microbial production of chemicals.
Wow. Well, in the book, I think they mentioned a particular, I think it's a protozoa, am I saying right,
Mhm.
called
Mhm.
Toxoplasma gondii.
Yes,
And that
Gandia.
was one
Yeah,
of the things they talked about a lot of different options for how microorganisms might be causing behavior changes in the flock. But could you tell us a little bit about that one? It's one people might have heard of also.
yeah. So Toxoplasma gondii is often found associated, with cats in our homes and things like that. But it is a protozoan, as you noted, and basically it infects rodents, and and then rodents lose their fear of cats as well. Rodents get attracted to cat urine,
Uh-huh.
so now they are an easy prey for cats. And the reason why, sorry, the,
Oh,
the
why?
reason, yeah, so the reason why is so that now a cat can eat the rodent, but toxoplasma needs to complete part of its life cycle in the cat. So it needs to get to the cat. So that's how it gets to the cat. And then people who hang around cats a lot have the possibility of picking up this organism.
Mhm.
And if it gets to their system, their nervous system, it can actually sometimes result in paranoia, aggressive behavior, driving, with no regard for others on the road, other things like that, risky behavior. Yeah.
Wow. Just like
Yeah,
mice. I've heard of that because I think they tell pregnant women to be careful around cat feces.
yeah, yeah.
Wow,
So
that amazing. So what do you know, since you're a fun guy who studies fungi? Did you like
yeah. Thank you.
that? In the book, I think they also mentioned, as they were thinking about the different microorganisms, they mentioned cordyceps. Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little about, and that's a famous because it was mentioned in the TV show The Last of Us.
Yes. So cordyceps is a very interesting fungus, and it infects ants as they forage on a forest floor or any place where they might be. And once they get into an ant, the 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 fungus begins to slowly grow within the ant, but very, very slowly. And at the right time, it causes the ant to climb a tree, which it ordinarily wouldn't, or some place that's elevated. And over a period of time, usually it's like 45 days to 60 days or something from what I read. And the fungus will then take over more of the ant's behavior. When I say more, because it also then causes the ant to hang on to a twig or a branch very tightly as it begins to die
Mhm.
and bite into a leaf. This way, the ant is anchored high above in the canopy, so to speak. And then the fungus grows out of the ant, produces a structure called a hypha or a conidiophore, whatever, anyway, and it produces its spores that will germinate. And the fungus actually, I think, controls the ant to do the climbing towards light. So these activities happen around high noon. And then at night, after several days, then the fungus will germinate its spores and
Wow.
they'll fall down to the earth. And guess what? These are nocturnal ants and they're eating down below.
And
And that's how they get infected. And the cycle continues.
we should say in Wanderers, there are kind of two storylines going on here. One are the mystery of these sleepwalkers and what's causing that. And the CDC is looking for microorganisms that might cause changes in behavior. The second storyline, what happens is a highly contagious fungus mutates. It is based on I'm going to let you pronounce it, the fungus that causes the white nose syndrome in bats. And it
Right.
mutates and then it begins to kill humans.
Pseudogymnoascus destructans. Yeah.
Can you tell us about it? What does it do?
Sure. So from what I understand, bats bats are mammals. They're very different from us, right? But they're also mammals, as are we. And they have an interesting life cycle, and part of their life cycle involves hibernation, where they go into a torpor, and their body temperature drops. Then cool, cold areas like caves, as we know, and then this provides a happy place for this particular fungus, Pseudogymnoascus, because it's a psychrophilic fungus. It likes cold temperatures. And so a bat's body temperature could be in the 40-degree range, Fahrenheit range. And so the fungus infects them. And then, and to what purpose, to what end, right? So the fungus's first purpose is to start growing within this bat and causes the bat to go through like a very bad sleepless night in this period, and it keeps waking up and all of these things and using its stores, it's the stores of its in its body's fat stores and other things. And then the fungus can get, then the bats take off at the wrong times perhaps, and they're very sick, and the fungus gets to spread this way, and basically gradually disseminates in that manner, I think. So in the book, the question is, so the human beings are getting infected by this fungus that likes low temperatures, but the temperature of a human being is like 98. degrees Fahrenheit. Mine is 97, by the way. I rarely go above 97. And then your question should be, well, how does it survive? How would that fungus survive in a human being? So there are always mutations, there are variants of some fungi that could potentially infect a human.
I read about cordyceps because of The Last of Us before reading this book and seeing about this fungus that causes the white nose syndrome. And it seems like the bit that is the biggest hurdle is the temperature. Like you said, the biggest hurdle to any of these the humans is the temperature. And in The Last of Us, it had mutated enough to be able to survive, including our fungi. Um, Portion of this discussion and sounds like and the microscopic organisms that the ideas that he took in his novel to come up with these terrible things, they're not probable, but the concepts and how um, these microorganisms can influence behavior and take over and kill large populations. It kills large populations of bats, large populations. That those are all true, right?
Correct.
He just kind of took the construct that's true, but placed it in a fictional setting, the
Right.
human body, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. The thought occurred to me yesterday that a pandemic, as we saw with COVID-19, we are always on the edge of a pandemic,
mhm.
always, because Mother Nature is nonstop evolution, as are we. So there's evolution going on all around us all the time. And it doesn't take a lot
Mhm.
for something to change enough. It's changed over time. And so now it just needs one more change, you
Yeah.
know. And
Ooh,
so,
exciting. What's going to happen next?
yeah, and that's it.
So in the book, there's a kind of a third aspect, which is an AI that's predicting and tracking these diseases and helping
Mm-hmm.
the CDC uncover both of these, both and talk about the flock and then also the white nose disease, right? And it's called Black Swan, right? It's a program called Black Swan. And it is predicting disease outbreaks. And in the book, which was written before COVID, around 2019, I think it was published, um, that was not that long ago. But AI has come so far that it seemed
Right.
futuristic at the time, right? The interface, the whole that is we've already passed that. This is showing you the speed of technology, right? You look at what you might as you read it, and it doesn't really talk to him in words. It shows him its research, but it doesn't have initially let's say the communication skills of something like ChatGPT or Claude or any of them. So obviously, when you look at that and say, could something like that happen? Well, gee, it already has, right? I mean, it already has. And the
Yep.
power of AI to predict outbreaks and look for terrorist attacks, that's there now. That's there now. Want to talk at all about the cultural meltdown in the novel or not as part of or no?
Oh, well, I think one of the things about the book was, as I read it, and I said, don't read it at night, and because it's not so much about the physical aspects of the book per se, and people getting infected and sick and this and that. It's more about how the social system
Breaks down.
breaks down,
Yeah.
and it's like, wow, you know.
Yeah, it's true. That was the heavy part I talked about. It was pretty hard to read.
Yes.
And you have to hope it wouldn't be that bad, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's hard because that could be pretty factual or it could be fiction. I don't know.
Yeah.
Look at,
Yeah.
but it sure does make you think though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So,
It's a tough one. It's a
yeah,
really
that's
tough one.
definitely. All
Yeah.
right, well, let's wrap it up then. There's a lot more that happens in the book, but we don't want, because we don't want to give any spoilers away. We're going to
Right.
stop there. And there is even a sequel called
Oh
Wayward,
yeah.
which I haven't read yet.
All
Um,
right.
and remember, if you have a thriller you want us to review or you want to be a guest author or expert, please contact me. I would love to talk to you. All right, that's it for us today. Thank you so much again, Michael, for being here. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Okay.